Okay, sit yourself onto your lift and get yourself ready for your morning practice. Let me just get my light working. So sit yourself in a good cross-legged position that feels comfortable and stable. And a position that feels like you are sitting with levelness, with evenness of the sit bones. Just have a little wriggle about, make sure that you're definitely even. Just feel that the seat bones are level. Just hold onto your knees and elevate the heart area upwards and draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just look down at the floor, look at something that isn't moving. Just focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. After you've been sitting for a little while, maybe you realise that after all you're not entirely level, so just adjust until you are, and then release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste, press the palms firmly together, lengthen from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands. And then allow your eyes to gently close. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Focusing on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Draw your chin forwards and down to meet the chest, lifting the chest up to meet the chin. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Just seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in your heart area, and then release the backs of your hands down to the knees. Palms facing upwards, just connecting the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb. Just a physical gesture of intention towards wisdom, bodily intelligence, and peacefulness that we can carry into our practice. And then gently raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. Just hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, up into the heart area, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, your ribs across, your shoulders across, keeping your neck still. Just observe your body's response to the pose this morning. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees. Elevate the heart area up. Come onto the front edge of the seat bones. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. And then very gently come back to the center. Hold onto your knees. Lift the chest. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just stay seated on the lift. If you've got a belt handy, then stretch the legs out and throw the belt around your feet. Have your feet hip width apart. If you feel like the backs of your thighs are stuck on the lift, then just shuffle forwards a little so that you can free the backs of the thighs from the lift. And then consciously extend from the hip into the heel on both legs. So lengthen the backs of the legs. Push the fronts of the legs through to the backs of the legs. Fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. The kneecaps through to the backs of the knees. The shins into the floor. Hold on to the belt and elevate the heart area upwards. Drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just finding the balance of the seat bones. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Really working on leg activation, pushing the fronts of the legs through to the backs of the legs, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards like you would do in Tadasana. Lifting the frontal thigh muscles up to the hip. Feeling that both legs are working evenly. It takes a while to really access that balance of action. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Feel that you can roll onto the front edge of the seat bones, lifting the abdomen upwards, up to the heart area, keeping the shoulders down. So if the legs are activated, it becomes easier to access the spine, the lift of the spine. then just gently release the belt. Come onto your knees. Have your hands as wide apart as the mat. Really spread the fingers. So after holding the belt, maybe your hands, the palms of the hands, feel good to stretch out. Turn your toes under. Have your feet as wide apart as the mat. And then come up into dog down with bent knees initially. Press the palms into the floor. Press the finger knuckles into the floor. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. Push the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. Listen to the breath. Tighten your kneecaps by pushing the fronts of the knees through to the backs of the knees. Try and open up the back of the knee like the iris of a camera. Just in the pose, just feel your way into it. Just feel that you're working evenly in the legs. One leg is mirroring the other. Your arms are working evenly. There's evenness between the arms and the legs. If I'm holding you the pose for too long, then rest. If you can stay and maintain for just a little longer, then do. Step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position, and then get some blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. And then bring your feet wide apart as your mat. Just lining the edge of your feet up with the edge of the mat. And again, just activating your legs in the same way that you were doing in Dandasana and in Svanasana, dog down. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, tighten the kneecaps, hit the thighs back. Your hands on your hips and lift up into the heart area. Keeping the head lifted, keeping the back straight, hinge at the hips. And then find blocks underneath your shoulders. Pushing the fronts of the legs through to the backs of the legs. Pushing the fronts of the knees through to the backs of the knees. Pushing the fronts of the shins through to the backs of the shins. Listening to the breath. Lifting the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs. Driving the chin and the chest forwards. Breathing into the bottom of the lungs to the top. If you can go down any lower, then do. Just observing your back. If you've got stiff back, then stay at a higher lift. If coming down feels like it aggravates it. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. If you can come down all the way to the floor without aggravating your back, then do. Activate your legs. So yoga is a constant sequence of observation and activation. A constant sequence of observation and activation. And through that continual process, we develop sensitivity, consciousness, awareness, So see the body in 3 dimensions, even though the eyes are looking forwards, probably can't see very much of the body, but feel where it is in 3 dimensions. Feel where your weight is. Is it in your toes, in the middle of your foot, or could you hit your legs back so that your weight is in your heels? Bring your hands into your hips, bend your knees on the way up, and then come up into standing position. Come into Tadasana. So with the inner edge of the feet together, activate your legs, tighten the kneecaps, turn the fronts of the thighs and the shins inwards. Hit the shins back so that your weight goes into your heels. Tuck the tailbone in, draw the abdomen to the spine, lift up into the chest. Turn your palms all the way out. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide, spread in the fingers, spread in the palms, just feeling that your balance is even in the feet. Hit the weight back into the heels, hit the legs back so that your weight is in your heels. Bring your hands into the chest and then step or jump your feet nice and wide. Turn the left toes in, the right leg and foot all the way out. And then with straight legs, come down, find the shin, turn the chest, lift up into the chest, lift up into that top arm. So I always lose a bit of ceiling height here, so it does force my shoulders out of line a tiny bit. But then you can still feel in 3 dimensions that the feet are in line, that the hips are in line with the feet, that the chest is lifting, that the chest is turning to the ceiling. If it feels very front leg centric, then activate the back leg. Really work from the hip into the heel of that back leg, spread the toes of that back leg. Come up to the centre, swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Straighten the legs, lift the legs from the feet up into the hips. Turning the thighs outwards in the opposite direction to Tadasana. Come over to the side, looking up, feeling where the feet are in relation to each other, feeling where the hips are in relation to the feet. Suck in that front leg buttock bone in line with the heels, the heel of the front leg anyway. Find evenness in the action of your legs. So trikonasana often becomes really front leg heavy. Reach up into that top arm. Extend from the hip into the heel of that back leg. And then coming back to the centre, bring your feet parallel. And then step or jump your feet back together. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. So spend a little time just observing the action of the breath and observing the action of the legs. Observing the action of the chest in relation to the action of the legs. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump your feet apart nice and wide. Turn your left toes in steeply and then rotate on the other heel. And we're going to, instead of keeping the hips at the facing the front, we're going to swing the hips around to face the length of your mat. Pick up the heel of that back leg and then rotate that back leg in a really firm Tadasana, turning the front of the thigh inwards so that the back of the thigh broadens outwards. So the heels are in line this time. So activate the legs, lift up into the chest, have your hands on your hips, get that back leg to straighten, that's going to stay straight. You can go into Virabhadrasana 1, which is a bent leg into a right angle with that front leg, and this back leg stays really firm. So at this stage, turn that thigh inwards and tighten the kneecap. Raise your arms up in advisable, lifting out of the hips. And then bend that front leg. Find a right angle. You might have to just creep the leg out a little. That back heel might lift, but if it does, just keep the leg as straight as you can. Tighten the kneecap. Push from the hip and into the heel. Lift from the hips up into the armpits, into the elbows, the wrists, the palms. Spread the fingers. Find a right angle with that front leg. Push into the back foot. And then straighten. Come back to the centre. Just bring the breath back into the pose. So the question is, does it feel like a drop in action in the chest, or does it feel like a real deep elevation up into the chest? So let's do the other side. Turn the right toes in a lot rather, and then rotate on the other foot. Pick that back heel up and turn it out. Have the heels consciously in line with each other. So at this stage, again, just work on this back leg, turning the front of the thigh inwards so that the back of the thigh broadens outwards, so that the hips come level. So work deeply into that back leg. Lift from the hips all the way up into the armpits, lifting the heart area. Have your hands on your hips for a moment. Lift up and then raise your arms up. Advisable preferably. I'm running out of ceiling height, so when I come into the pose, bend that front leg, then I can do Virasana. So keep that back leg turning, keep that back leg straight, keep bending that front knee until you find a right angle. Lift out of the hips, up into the armpits, into the elbows, into the wrists. If it feels strong in your lumbar, turn the tailbone in, which is a bit of a counteraction to that back leg. Soften the tailbone inwards, keeping that back leg really straight. And then come back to the centre. And then step or jump the feet back together. Come back into Tadasana. Just breathe, get your breath back if you feel out of breath. Tighten your kneecaps, hit the thighs back so that your weight is in your heels. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. So Virabhadrasana 1. So the biggest challenge with Virabhadrasana 1 is to bend that front leg, to make that front leg into a right angle. No one's quite there with their right angle, so you have to really focus on that back leg and bend the knees a little more. Just bring your feet hip width apart, turn the toes in, raise your arms up, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows, activate your legs, tighten the kneecaps. If there's any problem with your back, then just bring your elbows forwards and onto the back of a chair or onto a table. Otherwise, just allow the body to hinge entirely at the hips, keeping those legs really deeply activated, and then to hang down in uttanasana. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then release your hands down to the floor, and then walk your hands towards the end of your mat. Bring the palms flat into the floor, have your hands shoulder width apart, step back, bring your feet hip width apart, and then lengthen into svanasana. Activate the legs, turn the legs, the fronts of the legs inwards, like you were doing in with that back leg and the front leg in Virabhadrasana 1. Focus on feeling the lungs from the bottom to the top. The more you activate your legs, the more length and space you get in the chest. Observe how your feet are connecting to the floor. Is your weight principally on the little toe side? Is it on the big toe side, or is it distributed evenly? So rotate the shins inwards. Okay, come down onto your knees and then sit back on your heels, just feeling the lightness of your limbs. So maybe the legs feel energized and full of energy and focus. Maybe the upper body feels full of energy, full of space, full of lightness. Just bring the knees a bit wider apart if they're together, and then come forward into Adho Virasana, keeping the seat bones down on the heels. Keeping the arms firmly activated, locking the outer elbows inwards. And then just release your arms to the sides of the body, staying down in the child's pose, pressing your forehead into the floor. If it feels too heavy on your head, however, consciously lengthen from the shoulders into the fingertips. Straight arms. Okay, bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then just push yourself up into a seated position, just sitting back on your heels. And again, just observing the lightness and fullness of your energy. And then just come into cross legs. Just directly on the floor. If you find that sitting on the floor makes you drop in the chest and you can't kind of roll onto the front edge of the seat bones and sit on a lift. Just be in cross legs, holding the knees, lifting up into the chest. Just drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. Just look down at the floor. Look at something that doesn't move. Feel that you can fill the lungs from the bottom to the top. Filling the lungs evenly. Emptying the lungs evenly. Adjusting if it doesn't feel even. So we're going to do a little bit of seated pranayama, starting with brahmari pranayama, and then perhaps we'll move into a bit of viloma. So brahmari pranayama is where you take normal inhalations and long, slow, deep, deliberate exhalations, humming the out-breath until the lungs are empty, like this. So just a normal in-breath. And then a normal in-breath. So when the sound stops, it's when the lungs are empty. We're going to do that with Sanmukhi Mudra. So if you're not keen on touching your face, you can just hold onto your knees. Sanmukhi Mudra is where you bring the index finger and the middle finger together, and the middle finger just sits on the top eyelid and then draws the eyelids down, so that you're covering out the light. Then the tip of the index finger just presses into the bridge of the nose. So you're not closing it completely. You're just kind of restricting the airway slightly. Just makes you have a deeper breath, and then the little finger connects to that. So the index finger and the middle finger over the eyes. The tip of the index finger just gently restricting the airway slightly, but still enough that you can breathe, of course. And then you bring the thumb into that flap of the ear. So the full action looks like this. So the elbows are out. It's not elbows down like this. Elbows stay out. So in Sanmukhi Mudra, we'll do that in a second. So in Sanmukhi Mudra, we're going to do maybe 6 or 7 brahmaris. And the experience of brahmari is different in Sanmukhi Mudra. It's more intimate and a little more intense. So if you don't want to do it, then you just have your hands on your knees. Okay, just so bring the hands over the eyes, fingers over the eyes, just restricting the nostril slightly, just at the bridge of the nose, and then close the little flap of the ear. Just normal breathing to start off with. Take a normal out breath, and then a normal in breath, and then we'll begin. We'll do 6. And then when you're ready, just release your face. Just take some normal breaths. Your eyes might be a little blurry at first, just from gentle pressure on the eyes when you press your hands and fingers into the eyes. So just allow the vision to gently recover. Just focus on deep inhalations and exhalations. Just observe the resonance in the head. Maybe observe how the breath feels different. Just let the breath settle. Draw your chin forwards and down to make contact with the chest. Lift Mula Bandha, lifting the anal sphincter up towards the diaphragm. And then just focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top and emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. Feeling perhaps that the energy of the breath overflows into the arms and the chest and the legs. lift the in-breath from the perineum near the anus up towards the diaphragm. Lifting the energy of the in-breath from the perineum up to the collarbone. And then the out-breath from the collarbone down towards the perineum. So the apanic breath, the apanic region is the area, the perineum, which is the area between the genitals. Perineum is the apanic region. The samanic region is around the abdomen and the navel. The pranic region is inside the chest, in the lungs. So the apanic breath, lifting Mula Bandha, maintaining Jalandhara Bandha. So just holding onto your knees. And then gently release Mula Bandha, release Jalandhara Bandha, and then just bring your hands onto your knees, just shoulders down, lifting up into the chest. So just observing the calmness that comes through the brahmari and just that very first stage of viloma, just incorporating the apanic breath. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, digging the back hand into the floor, drawing your abdomen across and your ribs and your shoulders. And then come back to the center. Just take a deep inhalation and then with an exhalation turn to the left. Drawing your abdomen across and your ribs and your shoulders. Feeling the quietness of the brain that comes with the pranayama practice. And then gently come back to the center. Just come down onto your back, and then just pull your knees in towards the chest, in towards the seat bones even, and then just rest down into the floor. Have your hands on your lower ribs, and just feel the breath on the outside as well as the inside. Just feel how the chest expands for the in-breath, how the abdomen expands for the in-breath, accommodating that inhalation. Grab a block and then lift yourself up. Lift the seat bones up, gather your shoulder blades together, and then place the brick into the sacrum tailbone region of your back. Get hold of the sides of the mat and then try and tear the mat apart. Hold onto the mat and turn the crease of the elbows out to the sides of the room so that you're right up on the tops of your shoulders. So you can stay with bent knees or you can straighten your legs. If you've got a problem with your back at the moment, then stay with the knees bent. I'm just going to stay with bent knees today because my back is feeling better after being stiff at the beginning of the week or just at the end of last week. I don't want to push it too hard. So what we get with the block in setubandha is just a gentle supported inversion. Just listen to the sound of the breath. Focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Continue to take deep inhalations and exhalations and fill in the lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. And then when you're ready, just walk your feet a little closer to the blocks, come up onto the tiptoes if you need to, and then peel the seat bones away from the block. Just adjust the shoulders on the way down and then guide yourself back down onto the floor. Get hold of your knees and draw your knees in towards your chest, just to have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. Maybe even get hold of the outside edge of the feet for the happy baby pose. Just give yourself a really decent massage on the back. And then release, just roll onto your side and then sit yourself up. Just come into cross legs for a moment, just observe the lightness of your energy. And then just grab a blanket, a folded blanket, just nice and evenly folded. Just have that for underneath your head. If you feel like you might be cold, put a pair of socks on or just cover your feet. Just Just guide yourself down in a good straight line. And then allow yourself to completely release into the floor. Let go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. Unhook them. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just allow the body to release into the floor. Just let the body become heavy on the ground. And then observe out of that heaviness comes a distinct feeling of energetic lightness radiating from the bones. And it's the muscles and the organs and the flesh and the skin. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness, distributing it with the breath into the toes and into the fingers and up into the top of the head. And then when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, bring your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll over onto your right side. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just a final cross legs with your hands in Namaste, just a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you've released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the pranayama bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards, connecting the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb. Just a gesture of wisdom and peacefulness and physical intelligence that we can bring into our day. And then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you've lifted your energy significantly and given yourself good, positive energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.